Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello there, everybody. This is Carrie. First of all, I want to let you know that this was supposed to be a between seasons break episode, but it's essentially evolved into its own full episode. So I don't know what I'm going to call it, but this is Carrie. This is Unicorn Company, and we are going to talk about some Alpha Strike box stuff, and then we're going to look at the Rattlesnake. So let's go ahead and start off with the Alpha Strike box. So unless by some miracle, I am not going to be getting hold of an Alpha Strike box. Unfortunately, the person who had agreed to pick one up for me, could only get one. And apparently this is because Catalyst was limiting it to one per person. So I won't be getting my hands on the box until it's released publicly. That being said, there have been a lot of pictures taken, and I want to go over what I've been able to see. Now, first of all, even though I couldn't get the box, I do understand it's sold out within 3 hours at Gencon. This is wonderful news. It means our hobby is healthy and alive and well, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So that is definitely a good thing. All right, so let's look at the price. From what I understand, the price of the box is $79.95. So this is a little bit more than the other boxes, or at least what I remember. But you're getting a good amount more than you did in either of the boxes, in that it comes with the miniatures as well as cardstock terrain to allow you to play the game right out of the box. Now, I mean, no self-respecting mech warrior is going to be caught dead with a gray army, but you technically could play this out of the box. You do get a Star of Clan mechs, which includes a new Pouncer, as well as 2 Lances of Inner Sphere mechs, including the new Wraith. I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of the way the Wraith looks. I know there is an alternate version of the Warhawk, and given the problems with the standard Warhawk sculpt, with the flat part of the torso seeming to want to cave in, until I see it in person, I have to kind of hold off on any comment on it, because it looks like they've increased the amount of real estate up on the top of the mech, which may make the problem worse. Now, where I'm really intrigued, though, which I think is funny, are the buildings and the trees. So while being very basic 2-part tree stands, they are made from a very thick cardstock and look pretty good in the pictures I've seen. I'm not sure how many that you get in the box, but I would assume there's some sort of template included, or maybe not, to delineate woods. If there's not, old CDs make great tree stands. Just saying. So if you have some old CDs sitting around that God knows what's on them still, you can easily spray paint them brown or green or whatever, throw some dirt on them, brown, then throw some dirt on, paint them brown again, and then you have a template for how big your trees are, or your woods area. So the buildings themselves, though, going on to those, they look like they're decent quality in the pictures, with what looks like some kind of interlocking seam on the sides, as well as a roof that simply folds over. I will admit that I was hoping to actually see something more akin to the way the dropship commander buildings were done, where the roof folded upward from the inside, making it where you could collapse them and uncollapse them very easily, and they were extremely sturdy. But once again, these buildings may also surprise me once I'm able to get my hands on them later this year. After that, looking at one picture, I do count what looks like 14 buildings and 10 tree stands, which isn't bad considering that the box also includes 13 mechs. So there are also some previews of the new Force packs that were up, including the Kalehounds and Northwind Highlanders, which have a Warhammer with what looks like 2 SRM launchers that I can recall, which I can't recall which variant it is, as well as a Gunslinger, which I don't know if I'm that fond of. The Rough Riders box will come with the Penetrator. I have to say this rendition of the Penetrator doesn't do it for me in the torso. The legs look fine and are an improvement, but the torso seems to just not feel right when compared to the original, almost like it's too squat. The Eridani Light Horse box has the Sagittaire as its new model, which Looking at pictures seems to be an improvement in some areas and not too much in others, as the lasers tend to look way bigger than they should in comparison to the torso. The fix of the epic skylight that the thing had, though, is a nice change. Overall, the boxes look pretty good. I'm sure I've missed stuff, but there's always time for more things to come out. I will say that a saving grace on the Force packs is the jumping mechs are apparently optional. So it looks like they come with a ground base and a jumping base. So you can either have them standing on the ground or jumping. And quite frankly, when they announced each one would have a jumping mech, I was sort of dismayed because I don't want jumping mechs for like Alpha Strike. And to me, it was looking like, I'd only have 3 mechs out of each box. I'd have to hack off the jump jet stuff to make the 4th mech work. So, I'm kind of glad about that. There are also some of the miniatures for the Mercenary box set that'll be coming out with the new Kickstarter. I think a lot of the minis look really good. It was kind of weird on the pictures of the Goliath. For some reason, it had a flight peg under its main torso going into the hex space. Hopefully that is not a feature of the mech when it goes into production. Let's see, other things. I received word from John Helfers that my character, 2E Carrie Schumar of the Constance Honor Guard, will have her gender fixed in future printings of the Clan Invasion box set. I know this is a tiny victory for everybody as far as the LGBTQ community who are involved with the game, but for me it's a pretty big one. Because this was, this is something that was distributed with every single box set. And of course, once I have confirmation that her gender has been corrected and it is in circulation, I will be purchasing another one of these box sets for the book. The minis will be a perk. So, even though it's a break episode, we are going to be throwing a Mech Tech in. As always, our Mech Tech segments are sponsored by Miffed Kitty Minis. And I know I've been trying to do spots for Miffed Kitty. I think some of them are pretty decent. Today, though, I just want to let everyone know that there is a sale this month on everything that is designed by Redline Workshop. Go to miffedkittyminis.bigcartel.com to take advantage of the sale before the end of the month. Now it's time for some Mech Tech. So this time we'll be taking a look at a derivative of the Jenner and a rather new mech to canon, the Rattlesnake and the Rattlesnake 2. These two mechs are based on the Jenner and were original. I don't know why I typed that. They were originally based on the Jenner. In fact, so much so that the Rattlesnake kept the JR7 designation in front of its number designator. The idea behind the original Rattlesnake was part of a PSYOPs campaign called Operation Trapdoor. Operation Trapdoor met with mixed success, and most of the designs that were used would eventually be phased out due to low production numbers and battlefield attrition. The specifications for these designs, though, would stay with the Federated Sons well after their introduction in the 3040s. Now, jump forward to the Dark Age and Ill Clan era, the Draconis Combine has seized New Avalon. They are in dire straits, and the AFFS is looking anywhere they can for new mechs. The Rattlesnake was looked at, reworked, and turned into the Rattlesnake 2, which now carries a different designation from its original Rattlesnake predecessor. But it's the 2 version, so it's the same but different. So now that we have that short but concise history of the design, let's take a look at the nuts and bolts of everything here. First, we have the Rattlesnake. The JR7-31 Rattlesnake is a 35-ton striker. The mech is built around a 245 extra light engine, giving it a very good top speed of around 110 kilometers an hour. To stay cool, it carries 11 double heat sinks and is protected by 6.5 tons of ferrofibrous armor. It uses all this saved space to give it the ability to jump up to 210 meters. And also give itself an efficient and deadly weapons payload that outclasses its Combine-built cousin. In each arm and its center torso, the Rattlesnake carries a single medium laser, and in each of its side torsos, it also carries a pair of medium lasers, giving it a total of 7 medium lasers, or roughly half the firepower of a Black Hawk KU. The mech also carries a Guardian ECM suite in its left torso, and it also, concerning this mech and its capabilities, it does have its jump jets all mounted in the torsos. So this mech can jump in and out of shallow water, depth 1, with ease, and isn't limited in being able to jump back out. The battle value of the Rattlesnake is $13.98. There is one production variant of the Rattlesnake. This is the JR7-31P, which removes the ECM suite in favor of a C3 slave system and adds a single small laser in the left torso. The BV of this variant, which is almost identical to the 3.1, is $13.23. So it's actually a bit cheaper, unless, of course, well, we'll get into that. So next we have the Rattlesnake 2. This mech comes with its own actual design designation, which is nice, and bumps the design up quite a bit in its combat capabilities. There are 2 production variants of this mech. The first of these is the RSN-1 Rattlesnake 2. When they built the Rattlesnake 2, it gained some weight, going up to 45 tons, making it a medium mech. The mech is a mixed technology design, making use of clan equipment where possible, and is built on an endosteel chassis. The Rattlesnake 2 is powered by a Clan 315 extra light engine, giving it the same basic speed profile as the JR7-31. This is further enhanced, though, through the use of a mask system, allowing it to travel in bursts of speed up to 140 kilometers an hour. The mech does retain its jump capability of the original Rattlesnake. For protection, the RSN-1 has 8 tons of Clan ferrofibrous armor and is cooled by 14 Clan double heat sinks. A note about the Rattlesnake 2 is that this variant doesn't mount all of its jump jets in the torsos, and so only has a jump distance of about 150 meters when jumping out of depth 1 water. We should look at the armament, though. The RSN-1 carries a Guardian ECM suite, which allows it to disrupt C3 networks. Its actual weapons payload, though, consists of a large number of lasers. The right and left arms each have 2 medium lasers. The right and left torsos have a Clan Tech medium laser each. And finally, in the head, the mech carries a Clan ER small laser. The battle value of the RSN-1 is 1962, so almost 2,000 BV for this little monster. There is a variant of the Rattlesnake 2, the RSN-2. This model has a number of similarities to the RSN-1, but also some unique differences. The RSN-2 is powered by the same engine and built on the same endosteel chassis. It carries 16 Clan double heat sinks to cool the machine and is clad in 9 tons of stealth armor. The weapons payload switches to cooler inner spear standard lasers with 2 medium lasers in each arm, a single medium laser in each side torso, and a small laser in the head. The mech also sacrifices 2 jump jets, and once again, the 5 it does have are all torso mounted. The BV of the RSN-2 is 1480. One thing I didn't mention on both variants of the Rattlesnake 2 is that it does have a small cockpit, which does make it a bit harder to pilot, at least in Classic, but otherwise doesn't affect the mech's performance. Alright, now let's take a look at these machines in Alpha Strike. We're going to start with the JR7-31 Rattlesnake. Now, before we go into the design, I do have to say there seems to be an inconsistency in the Master Unit List card, which gives the mech a long-range value that it shouldn't, but otherwise matches up with everything else. So, I'm going on the assumption that the long-range value is in error, and as all the other numbers, when I've checked this, are correct. So, the JR7-31 Rattlesnake is Type Battle Mech, Size 1, TMM of 3, and has a movement of 14J. 14 jumping. The mech is classified as a striker, which I totally agree with, and has a point value of 42 points. The firepower of the Rattlesnake at short and medium ranges are 4, and it does not have a long range value and no overheat. The mech has armor of 4 and structure of 2, and has specials of ECM and ENE. The production variant of the Rattlesnake, the JR7-31P, is identical in all but 2 ways. The mech costs 1 more point and has a C3 slave, has a special C3 slave and mech headquarters 1. Excuse me, a little bit of heartburn. Otherwise, it is completely identical, and like I said, it's 1 point more. It's a nice thing to have when you need a C3 lance. or mechs for a C3 lance, at least for the Fed Sons. The Rattlesnake 2 does an amazing job of being a follow-up to the standard Rattlesnake in Alpha Strike. The mech is Type Battle Mech, size 2, TMM of 3, movement of 18/14 jump, and is once again a striker. It comes in at 47 points. The Rattlesnake 2 has damage values of 4 at short and medium without a long range or overheat, and has armor of 5 and structure of 2 with the specials of ECM and ENE. So it's an energy mech with ECM. Pretty good design, actually. Points-wise, I don't know. I'd have to look at other 50-pointers, or around 50-pointers, see what's out there. The RSN-2 variant of the Rattlesnake 2 is similar to the standard variant. It is Type Battle Mech, size 2, TMF 3, movement of 14/10 jump, and is classified as a striker. The mech has a point value of 45 points, and this is reflected in its capabilities, or lack thereof, when compared to the RSN-1. The mech has damage values of 4 at short and 3 at medium, no long range and no overheat. It has an armor rating of 5 and structure of 2, which, given that it has stealth armor, is pretty robust, and it has specials of ECM, ENE, jump weak 1, and stealth. So you don't want to go ahead and jump around with this mech, because you're not getting any advantage out of it unless you're just trying to get past something you can't get past otherwise. Overall, I would say the Rattlesnake is the Armed Forces of the Federated Sons' take on doing a Pimp My Ride for the Jenner, and they bring essentially more Jenner to the Jenner. It's impressive. I mean, especially the JR731 and 31P, which pack quite a bunch for their size and when they were built. And the 31P does give the AFFS another badly needed C3 unit in the FedCom Civil War and Jihad eras. The RSN-1, I feel, is a decent design, but with as much clan tech as it uses, I don't see why it wasn't just farmed out to the Diamond Sharks and Cannon for a full-on clan build. The RSN-2 seems interesting in Classic at least, but in Alpha Strike, I don't know how much utility it actually has. Okay, so after all this, now the episode sort of continues, but doesn't continue. All right, so I have some things that I need to get off my chest about what's going on with Blaine Pardoe. I know not everybody wants to hear this, so obviously I've hung on to this to the last. If you don't want to hear it, then to those who are not going to be here after this part, I say have a good day, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is where you are. If you are staying, I will give you a few moments to think about whether you want to, like 10 seconds, and then I'm going to start going on about what's going on with Blaine and how it's affecting me, the community, and everybody else. So let's just give it a moment. Okay, so this is kind of like the secret tracks at the end of CDs from the 90s. I'm sure that people my age remember those. I think my Green Day one had one. It's been a long time. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Blaine. And there's reason for this. I don't want to talk about this, but I must, because since Blaine announced his release from Catalyst as one of the authors that they would go to work for, he has been doing the interview circuit with conservative podcasts, YouTube channels, etc. Blaine, in each of these interviews, likes to say that a person he won't name was stalking and threatening him. So far, since this has started, several people have been out there being accused by anyone who happens to be LGBTQ, an ally, or even just a friend of faith. They're either being accused of being a sock account for her or being the person Blaine is referring to in his interviews. I would like to say that no one is faith except for faith. Further, randomly lashing out at anyone who is openly LGBTQ in the various Facebook groups is not going to help anything. It's not going to get Blaine his job back. It's not going to make you look good. It's not going to make him look good. As far as Blaine himself, I'm finding his story more and more outrageous every day. So, a bit of background about me. I do know how to skip trace people, and I know a lot about how to look up things like protective orders, judgments, stuff like that. I have not for the life of me been able to find a protective order issued to Blaine Pardoe against Faith McCloskey or anyone else by Blaine in either the state of Virginia or the state of Pennsylvania, which is where the two people that are involved in this are. And I know the county Blaine lives in. He used to have it in the back of his books, actually, which was kind of weird. I never liked that. From a personal standpoint, it's like, yeah, why are you going to put your county in there in every book? But yes. So, I mean, I've had Blaine at my game table at a store called Game Vault years ago. Blaine has been there for BattleTech games that I've run. I know where he is. I know where he would have gotten his protective order issued. It's not there. I've checked every county in Virginia. It's not there. I've checked Pennsylvania, every county. Not there. There is nothing I can find. So on that part, Blaine needs to start bringing some receipts to back up the claims he's making. I mean, a PDF of it, a scan of it, a picture of it somewhere, just to prove he can block out the names of the other people. That is not an issue. But what he's doing by making these claims, and, like I said, I can't find evidence of this. And some of you are probably going to say, well, it's a private matter, it wouldn't be listed. But here's the thing. Virginia and Pennsylvania, they only seal cases in specific circumstances, one of those being juvenile domestic relations court, which Blaine and Faith are not either A, married, or B, have a kid, at least that I know of. So it would not be a sealed record. It would be accessible to the public. And I guess what I'm really saying there is he needs to bring some receipts on this. He needs to prove it. I mean, I can't find any evidence of his claims. Finally, the vitriol, it just needs to stop. He got fired, okay? He wasn't even fired. He was a contractor. He got told, hey, you know what? We don't want to use you as a contractor any further. He lives in Virginia. Virginia is a right-to-work state. You can be removed from your job in Virginia for any reason without cause. So it's not like he has some kind of special protections that apply to that apply to him and not to other people here. He's a contractor in Virginia. Guess what? You can lose your job pretty easily. Now, attacking each other like we're doing some kind of weird LARP of the FedCon Civil War or House Merrick in the BattleTech community is not helping anyone. Did I like the man? No. He had been to my gaming table locally. We had talked about the fate of the Great Death Legion, how he wanted them to be part of Task Force Serpent, wanted them to meet their demise on Huntress. He seemed like an okay guy, and then when he canonizes me, he misgenders me. And he had the nerve to tell Razor Fist that he doesn't have time to look up the gender pronouns of everyone. I mean, Carrie. 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 How many boys do you know that have that name that's spelled that way? Especially when it's a woman that you have met in person. Locally. Anyway, I hope that, I don't really have anything else to say on this. Just, we need to do better, all of us. And if this is literally going to tear the community apart if it's allowed to. So that's all I really have to say. If you like the podcast, go ahead and like it on. This should be on YouTube at some point. You can also go. I don't even know, the Podbean, Apple Podcasts. I'm on everything at this point, so I don't know who likes me where. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/unicorn company, or you can also support us by going to our sponsor, Miffed Kitty Minis, at miffedkittyminis.bigcartel.com. All right, so that is everything for this episode. I hope that y'all have a good one. This is Carrie signing off.
I'm gonna find my meaning, I can make a change. I wanna play the game. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go down swinging, float deep within. Get lost in the field, just need a win. I'm going off, I know it's time to make a change, and I can take the pain. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go down swinging, float deep within. I get lost in the field, just need a win. I'm gonna find my meaning, I can make a change. I wanna play the game.
Oh my God, y'all are still here? Go home.